welcome back to another Modern Horizons draft video. Now today, do we consider taking it again? I know if I take this card, I'm going to regret it, because I'm not going to draft black and white. And I know if I take the alternative, which is either like Scurry Oak or Rift Sower, I'm going to regret it. So I'm going to take this card, because it is narrow in scope, but the payoff is potentially huge, and we'll see what happens. Okay? Alright. Maybe this will work. We can draft black-white. If we do, we'll be playing Reanimator, of course. And Late to Dinner is arguably one of the better spells to be casting in that strategy. So we'll take a Late to Dinner. Alright? In this pack, Discerning Taste helps you get through your deck a lot faster, but Clattering Augur also does the same. It cantrips immediately, it comes down early, you can buy it back if you dump it in the grave by any means, and it's an uncommon, whereas Discerning Taste is a common, so we're going to take Clattering Augur. Alright, we got a few picks here. So Sanctifier Envec. Let's see, MH2 is a minimum of 3 tickets. That's not bad. It has protection from black and red, so it can hose multiple opponents. I would like to take Breathless Knight. I hope Glorious Enforcer comes around, because this is the reanimation target. There's also a Late to Dinner in this pack. I'm going to take the Sanctifier, but we're gonna see what happens. Dermotaxi. As it enters the battlefield, exile a creature card from the graveyard. Tap 2 untapped creatures you control. Until end of turn, it becomes a copy of the exiled card, except it is a vehicle artifact in addition of its other types. This is another rare that fits in the Reanimator deck. This is kind of interesting because it turns the creature card in the graveyard into a vehicle that you can man. That's 3 rares that fit in this deck in the first pack, which is pretty exciting. Arcus Acolyte is really strong. It's a very powerful Outlast effect. It does not really fit in the Reanimator deck, though. It is a green-white card. It is definitely a really good card to be playing in like the green-white counters deck. I'm going to take the Goldmire Bridge because I want fixing in my colors. So Chrome Courier is kind of interesting. Chrome Courier, we can splash. It can put cards in the grave. It can gain us life, potentially. Just delay the game. The alternative is taking a Tormod's Cryptkeeper, a Landscaper Kolos, or a Lens Flare. I think I'm going to take the Kolos because you can reanimate this creature and it's not terrible. It can also fix for you, especially if you are splashing, because it does have basic land cycling, so we'll take Landscaper Kolos. Abiding Grace definitely fits better in the aggressive deck, but I won't complain too much if we can get a single 1-drop that does anything useful. That can end up in the grave by any means. I think this is better. Sinister Starfish is very good, but I have not had a lot of luck with Sinister Starfish, so I'm going to take Abiding Grace. Okay, I do like the Underworld Cookbook. The Underworld Cookbook can discard cards, help us enable our reanimation strategy. Mere Scrappling is quite good, especially because we're playing white. If we get a Constable of the Realms, we can just start like looping with Abiding Grace and Mere Scrappling, but I'm going to take the Cookbook because this can buy back a creature from the grave if I need it to. Vermin Gorger seems fine. I don't mind having a sack outlet, especially with a Clattering Augur, especially one that gains life. Discerning Taste came all the way around. Glorious Enforcer came all the way around. Perfect. I guess Foul Watcher into the side. I'm a little bit sad we didn't get that other Late to Dinner, but I am happy that we got at least one creature that is worth reanimating. Ow. I don't know if that came through on camera, but my elbow popped and it was very loud. Okay, Echoing Return to the sideboard and Flame Blitz to the sideboard. Okay, let's go pack 2. So, this did end up paying off. Thankfully, we are in the colors that can play this card. So we have a good kill spell / Wrath. We have a creature that is protection from 2 colors that are quite relevant in this deck and format, especially because the black deck does a lot of self-discard, and the red deck is both aggressive and gets blocked by this. Okay, hang on. Okay, so Misty Rainforest is worth like 7 tickets, I think. Let me double check that. If I'm not taking it, I could take... okay, it's worth 6 tickets. I take either Greed or I take Bone Shards. I'm more interested in Bone Shards because it's a discard outlet. I am sad to pass a 6-ticket rare, but I'm going to try and make this deck as good as I can make this deck. I'm fine taking a second Glorious Enforcer. I'm going to be on the lookout for more reanimation spells. Hopefully we can find them. Right now we only have the one. Soul Snare is excellent removal. I would not mind a Loathsome Curator to come around, but we'll take Soul Snare. I think this is a Thraben Watcher pick. This makes all of our creatures better. We don't really make token creatures of any kind. I guess Dermotaxi, in a way, is sort of a reanimation spell, so I guess we have 2 reanimation spells, but yeah, we'll take Thraben Watcher. There's another Arcus Acolyte. There's a Mere Scrappling, which is good for aforementioned reasons. There's another Landscaper Kolos, and a Loathsome Curator. I think I'm going to take the Kolos over the Curator, because while the Curator is removal, I don't really have a lot of things to sack right now, and I think I would rather have the basic land cycling to fix. Okay, now I will take a Curator, as I think it's the best card in this pack for us. There's a discard outlet, and a Break Ties. I really like having a Break Ties in any white deck I draft in this format. I think it's very important to have removal spells, and this is basically a removal spell in this format because there are so many enchantment creatures like Mount Valus Manticore, and the Karanos Servant, I don't remember the name of. There's a lot of artifact creatures. I will take a second Soul Snare, though. I think that card is excellent. Greed came all the way around, and I'm pretty happy about that. I'll take a Greed. Another Vermin Gorger is great. We'll take a Vermin Gorger. A little bit sad I didn't get a Guardian Kirin, but that's okay. It's better in the green-white deck rather than the black-white deck, because the green-white deck is counters, the black-white deck is Reanimator. If I could get like 3 more late to dinners, I'd be really happy. Blossoming Calm. Don't really need it to gain life, I don't think. I think the Kirin is just better for us. So we'll take the Kirin. Fairgrounds Patrol is fine. Fairgrounds Patrol, if we dump it into the grave off Discerning Taste, we can still get a Thopter out of it, that kind of a deal. So we'll take the Fairgrounds Patrol. Well, it's also good to have a few cheap creatures, especially if you have Dermotaxi, because then you have ways to reanimate it. I'll take Mere Scrappling, because I was hoping to get past one of those this game for Abiding Grace reasons. Put an Echoing Return in the sideboard, and another Anarchomancer into the sideboard. Final pack. We've got Void Mirror. Basically no white cards. Man, we could have had a really good green-white counters deck, because we've seen 3 Arcus Acolytes. I think we take Piercing Rays. I think I would... Well, it's Piercing Rays or it's the Starfish. We already have 3 good removal spells at least. Let's take the Starfish. Okay, a few different picks here. I don't think we would take Sudden Edict. I think Underworld Hermit is worse in this deck, because we only have a couple of reanimation spells. Dermotaxi doesn't give you the Enters the Battlefield effect, so this is really only good for reanimating Glorious Enforcers. I think we'll still take it. We are looking for late to dinner. Or Persist. We would take Persist. But I think me passing that Singleton late to dinner, or Graceful Restoration, I think is the other reanimation spell. And then, of course, the Priest of Fell Rites. We would be happy with any of those. There's a Priest of Fell Rites alongside a Vindicate, which is pretty sad. I think somebody else is in Reanimator. I would really like this Vindicate, but I'm going to take the Priest, because the Priest is not just 1 reanimation spell, it is 2, and our deck got way better. Let's see. Turok's Canticle can matter a bit. I think Solitary Confinement Greed is a combo, isn't it? Skip your draw step, you have Shroud, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. Greed doesn't damage you, though. It gains you life, or it loses you life, which is different than damage. So maybe it's not exactly a combo. I'm going to take a Mouser, just to have another 1-mana creature if I do end up playing Abiding Grace. Breathless Night is good. I don't think I'm playing 2 Underworld Cookbooks. I could splash for Master of Death, but Breathless Night I think is a little bit better. Another Breathless Night. Yeah, I'll take another one. Another Underworld Hermit. Sure. I think I take a Blacksmith skill to protect my gigantic Reanimator targets. Nothing in this pack is worth much, so there's nothing to take based on value alone. I could take Draykeeper to synergize with the Hermits. Maybe if I find a Dark Moss Bridge in the last couple picks, I can end up playing it. I do have some basic land cycling, and World Weary is more removal. I will take that. Legion Vanguard is good if we end up playing the Hermits. I don't think this is a record for the most rares I've had in a deck, but it's close. Yeah, I think I would rather have a Crack open for the sideboard than a Turok's Canticle. Maybe not. Maybe I should have taken the Canticle, because I do have Break Ties. And I'm probably not playing this Draykeeper. Fairgrounds Patrol is okay. Unbounded Potential is okay, and Aeromoeba we're not playing. Okay, so we're a little light on reanimation spells. We technically have 3. Let's see what we're dealing with here. I don't think we're going to be playing Draykeeper. We may not be playing these Hermits. Vermingorger, Mouser is Vermingorger, Mouser, and Abiding Grace is a combo. I don't think we're playing Unbounded Potential because we don't have any of the Constable of the Realms in the 5-drop slot. We have a lot of pretty decent cards in the 2-drop slot. I don't think we're playing Guardian Kieran. And I actually don't think we're going to be playing those Hermits at all. They're not going to get too much extra value. We don't use all of the tokens that they're going to create, basically in any way we play this deck. I'm going to cut 1 Fairgrounds Patrol because I think it's not that great. So Cookbook is a discard outlet and a way to buy back creatures that we put in the grave. I think this is fine because in the early game it can discard and do a setup for late to dinner or associate spells. And late game we can sack it to just like get back a creature we can hard cast if we make it that far. Not a huge fan of the Starfish in this deck, actually. So we actually have a lot of removal spells. We have 2 Soul Snares and a Bone Shards, a Dam, and a World Weary. That's 5 hard removal spells. We have a good number of flyers and evasive creatures. This is probably one of the better... I mean, it's not the Reanimator deck where we got all the mythics and rares that I drafted before. So it's probably not going to live up to that. But I think this deck is going to be fairly decent. Especially with plenty of stuff to play early. Now, I need to cut about 7 cards. And that's going to be a little bit difficult. I think I'm going to cut the Curator. It's in a little bit of an awkward spot on the curve. I think I only need to play 1 Landscaper Kolos. I may not need to play World Weary. Abiding Grace only synergizes with 2 cards. And it's pretty good with Scrappling, and it does combo with Vermingorger. The problem is Arcbound Mouser does not modular onto anything. So it's just a 1-mana 1/1 lifelink. That's probably still good enough to play. Yeah, I think the combo for Recursive Value is good enough to play. Okay. So I think we cut World Weary. Still need to cut 3 cards. I'm leaning towards Blacksmith Skill, but I also know that if we're cheating on the cost of creatures to put them into play, then what we need to do is I like having a spell to protect them. Okay, I'm going to cut Fairgrounds Patrol. I mean, I guess Mouser could have modulared onto the Thopters from Fairgrounds Patrol, but Fairgrounds Patrol, when we exile it from the grave, does not trigger Breathless Night. It does not get a bonus from Thraben Watcher. I could sideboard Sanctifier Envec. None of our reanimation targets are black, so... I mean, I guess it has anti-synergy with Priest of Fell Rites, or negative synergy. Okay. We'll drop Sanctifier, we'll bring it in versus a black or red deck. And I think I need to cut 1 more non-creature card, because right now we're only playing 13 creatures. It might be a Soul Snare. So we'll add our black-white dual land, add a bunch of lands, and I think we've got ourselves a deck, so I'll see you guys in round 1. Alright. I think I can work with this hand. It's not amazing, but we have enough lands, we can play everything in our hand. We have a Priest of Fell Rites. Alright, opponent is a red deck. So let's play Legion Vanguard. Pass the turn. Opponent is a black-red deck, so I'm going to regret taking that Sanctifier out. At least in the short term. Play a Plains. Play a Soul Snare. Go to combat. Hit our opponent for 2. Opponent untaps. Echo. They're going to Madness a Terminal Agony. This cannot sack itself, it can only sack other creatures. They play a Swamp. They go to combat. They attack. Take out their 3/3. Untap. We draw an Arcbound Mouser. Play a Swamp. Play Breathless Night. We can either keep up Break Ties to make it a 3/3, or we can play the Mouser here. Let's play the Mouser. We might need to actually use Break Ties to destroy an artifact. Okay, opponent plays a Cabal Initiate. They play a Vermin Gorger, and they pass. We untap, draw a swamp, play a swamp, go to combat. Attack for 2. Opponent takes 2, we gain 2. Play out the priest. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw. They play a swamp. They go to combat. They attack and attack. So this is kind of bad for us if they have a sudden edict, but if they don't, the opponent is going to Madness Revolutionist, which means they are going to pick up Terminal Agony. Alright, I'm going to reinforce this priest to kill the Vermin Gorger. So then my opponent has to pick between killing the flyer with lifelink and killing the reanimation spell. We draw Goldmire Bridge, so play it. Go to combat. Attack for 2 in the air. Opponent plays another Cabal Initiate. Passes, no blocks. Take 3. We untap. We draw Blacksmith Skill. Alright, so this is pretty sick. Go to combat. Attack and attack. So nothing we target with Blacksmith Skill is going to get the +2/+2. But it will gain Hexproof and Indestructible. Interesting. That is not what I expected them to target. Yeah, sure. Cabal Initiate gains lifelink. We hit them for 5, gain 2, and go to 21. They go down to 11. Pass to our opponent. We're only 1 land away from casting Glorious Enforcer. They play a Kitchen Imp for its madness cost. They madness a Scophos Reaver. They go to combat. They attack for 7. Take 7, go to 14. Opponent gains 2 because of their guy. Go to combat. Attack them for 2 in the air. We'll leave back the priest. We go up to 16. They go down to 11. And we'll play the Underworld Cookbook. So now, if we draw any of our big threats, we can dump them immediately into the grave. We can exchange the priest for them. Opponent plays a Guiltblade Prowler. They go to combat. They swing. So we are going to trade with that Scophos Reaver. We go to 11. They pass. We untap. We draw planes. Go to combat. Attack them for 2. They go down to 9. We go up to 13. We pass. We are going to turn this plains into a food. We're not going to need our 7th land this game, at least as long as this is our setup. Kind of hoping my opponent just runs out of steam, but it doesn't look like that's what's happening here. My next plays might have to be a little bit awkward. I really, really hope I can draw Glorious Enforcer. I would take Landscaper Kolos, but ditch a plains, gain life. We go up to 16. We take 9 and go to 7. Untap. We draw Discerning Taste. Play Discerning Taste. Take Damn. So if I block here, I'll gain 2, go to 11, and take 9. And if my opponent discards their last card, we can Wrath and come back. There's no guarantee that works. There's a lot of ways we die. That's really the only way we have a chance. Now I could increase my chances of surviving this turn by casting Damn and killing the 3/3 here. But if I don't do this way, we almost certainly lose the game. Okay, opponent ditches the Archfiend, and that kills us on the spot. Yep, next game. Well, we did pretty good, and we didn't show off the fact that we had a Wrath. We have a good sideboard for this matchup as well. We're definitely bringing in Soul Snare, because our opponent does play around in the graveyard a little bit. Exile can matter. We're definitely bringing in Sanctifier and Vec. We don't have enough top-end creatures to actually reanimate, so I'm going to drop a Vermin Gorger. I'm going to drop a Legion Vanguard. Did I start by playing 41 cards? I don't remember. But I think I do want this other Landscaper Kolos. I think it's better than this Mouser. Try it like this. I really wish we had white mana. We got a mulligan. Oh, it's slow, but it's probably our best chance. Lead on a swamp, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Blazing Rootwalla on turn 1. We draw late to dinner, play a plains. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a swamp. They play Cabal Initiate. They go into combat. They hit us for 1. Draw another plains. Play the plains. Pass the turn. Opponent makes an imp. Gains lifelink. Plays a swamp. Hits us for 7. We go to 12. Yeah, I think we do this now. That gets rid of their discard outlet and 3 threats. Pass the turn. Rakdos Headliner is a pretty good top deck from that position. We go to 9. I'd really like to draw a Soul Snare. That is not a Soul Snare, unfortunately. So play a Swamp. Play Thraben Watcher. Pass the turn. They must have top decked that Headliner late at Fire and Ice. And the reason that I think that is because otherwise they would have kept it. They wouldn't have played the Root Wall on turn 1. Or they would have played this on turn 2 and gotten the Kitchen Imp on turn 3. Alright, we have only 1 play and it's not good. Reanimate the Thraben Watcher. Get a food. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw. They play a tap land. They play Terminal Agony. So we got to offset the life loss of the Headliner here. Really hope we can top deck a Glorious Enforcer. Play Greed. Greed once. We did not draw Soul Snare. Play Goldmire Bridge. Pass the turn. They're going to take us to 1 unless they have direct damage. They play a land. We go to 1. Calibrated Blast, revealing anything, kills us. Well, that's unfortunate. I don't think we could have afforded to get any greedier with that Wrath. Unfortunately, we just didn't draw anything. We drew lands, and we didn't see our Reanimator targets either game. So, alright, I'll see you guys in round 2. Alright, I'm going to keep this because we have action. Lead on Swamp, pass the turn. Opponent plays a tap land. We draw Blacksmith Skill. Play the Priest. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Plains. They pass. We untap. We draw Plains. Go to combat. Attack for 2. Opponent no blocks. Play a Plains. Play Breathless Knight. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Swamp. And a Captain Ripley Vance. We untap. We draw Soul Snare. Go to combat. Attack for 4. Opponent does not block. They take 4, we gain 2. Play Soul Snare, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Mountain, so we'll probably be bringing in the Sanctifier for this matchup as well. I really wonder what they're playing. Okay, opponent does not attack. We untap. We draw Landscaper Kolos. So go to combat. Attack, attack. Opponent no blocks. They take 4. Land cycle the Landscaper Kolos. Play a Swamp. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Plains. They play an Arcbound Tracker. And they are going to Prismatic Ending. So, Blacksmith Skill. We're going to protect the Breathless Knight. They get a counter on the tracker. Prismatic Ending fizzles. So that explains why they're playing white. Like, that card alone might justify it, but the fact they played 2 plains means either they drew their only plains, or... yeah, they either drew their only plains or they are playing a lot more white cards. Play a Plains. Reanimate the Kolos. This gives us a food. This increases the size of Breathless Knight, which is why we're doing this. Exile Prismatic Ending from our opponent's grave. Well, we put it on the bottom of their deck. Actually, do we want to do that? Oh, we don't have a choice. Okay. Go to combat. Hit them for 3 in the air. Okay. Opponent goes down to 7. We go up to 27. Okay. Opponent plays Dihada. They're going to gain control of the flyer. Untap it and put a corruption counter on it? Why didn't they... Oh, they just plussed on it. They didn't minus. For some reason, I thought they minused. They play Zabaz. Okay, on our opponent's end step. Crack the food, gain life, untap, draw planes, play planes, go to combat, attack our opponent, attack our opponent. Opponent double blocks. Of the two cards, we want to kill Captain Ripley Vance. And I think we do want to reanimate the Kolos immediately because we want this creature to be as big as possible. Next turn, we can also just unearth Priest of Fell Rites and attack with it. It makes our opponent's blocks tougher. This opponent down ticks to gain control of the Breathless Knight. So they're doing this to gain life. But really what it means is... Okay, they didn't attack with it. Not sure what that's about. We draw a Mouser. Unearth. Counter here. Go to combat. Swing with everything at our opponent. I think they made a mistake. I think they were supposed to attack. Or wanted to. They might have clicked through combat, though. I should have also... I did tap wrong. I should have tapped that last swamp so I could play the Mouser this turn. Opponent is going to Foundry Helix, sacking the tracker to make Zabaz really big. Okay. Yeah, I can't stop them from doing that. They're going to give Zabaz flying. So they kill that. They block the knight. The knight dies. They take 4 from the Kolos. Play the Mouser. If they want to attack with Zabaz this turn, that's actually fine. They play a land, but their removal is red. Their planeswalkers are red. Most of their creatures have been red. They uptick to drain us. We untap and draw Break Ties. Destroy Zabaz. Okay. See if they click through modular like I do. Go to combat. Hit our opponent for 4. Hit Dihada for 1. I want them to only be able to uptick Dihada. I don't want them to have like some kind of edict, or not edict, but a sacrifice outlet. Technically, by not hitting them, I've delayed the game by at least 1 turn, like our victory, because they can uptick. That drains us for 2, so we hit them for 5 next turn. They go to 1. So maybe I should have just swung at them, but I'm more concerned that they had like a second Foundry Helix or something and would be able to sack our creature, which would be a huge problem. Okay, Prophetic Titan. So they can either dig or they can shoot something. They're going to dig. We untap. We draw Legion Vanguard. Play the Vanguard. Go to combat. Attack our opponent for 4. They take 4 and are going to 2. We pass. They untap. Okay, they put a corruption counter on Legion Vanguard. They are going to Piercing Rays. So sack the Kolos. Breathless Knight. I will put it on top. Opponent passes. We untap. Draw Breathless Knight. Play it. Pass the turn. Well, I could attack and I could sack my whole board, but it seems like a waste of resources that would get completely blown out by any removal spell. They suspend their own Titan. Interesting. Never thought of using suspend that way, actually. That's not a bad idea. I can see circumstances where it would work, especially when it has an on-cast trigger or enters the battlefield trigger. We do have lethal, even if they uptick Dihada. Sack the knight. Discerning Taste we'll put on top. Okay, so they have to play a blocker or have a removal. 7 mana. Upheaval? No, that is a problem. Because they're going to upheaval and then Prophetic Titan's going to enter the battlefield. That's interesting. Alright, nothing we can do about it. They play a land, they pass the turn, they have to discard 2 cards. So Prophetic Titan gets to shoot 4 damage to our face, and they get to pick up a card out of the top of their deck. So what we're going to do is we're going to lead on Soul Snare, then pass, and we're probably just discarding 3 lands. Okay? So Prophetic Titan coming off Suspend. They shoot us for 4. They get to go digging. That's very clever. Makes me think of Gargadon Restore Balance in a lot of ways. Opponent plays a tap land. They hit us for 4. We go to 20. Opponent discards a plains. We draw a swamp. Play a swamp. Play Dermotaxi. Exile the Kolos. So interesting, Dermotaxi can actually grab stuff out of my opponent's graveyard. I didn't know that. And then the idea is, if they just attack and don't leave anything back, we can play Mouser, Vanguard, Animate Dermotaxi, and hit lethal. Opponent plays a tap land, attacks us for 4. We take 4 and go to 16. Untap and draw a swamp. Play a Plains, play a Mouser, play Vanguard, Animate Dermotaxi, go to combat, and the game is over. Alright. Bringing in Soul Snare, bringing in Sanctifier, dropping a Vermin Gorger, and I think we dropped the Mouser. Try it like this. A single land gets us to Kolos. If it's white, I think we get a mulligan. This is actually better, but not a lot. I'm going to keep this. We'll put back Soul Snare. Opponent starts by playing a tap land. Draw a swamp. Well, they're not a deck that pressures us overly, so hopefully Greed can just like reload our hand. Opponent plays a tap land. We untap. Draw Vanguard. Play the thing that impacts the board. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays a Storm God's Oracle. We untap and draw Sanctifier. So I can cast Removal, but it just kills my creature. I guess if that's going to happen anyway, I could Bone Shards my creature away. So they shoot me for 3. Play a Swamp. Pass the turn. Need a land. I also need to be aware that Sanctifier and Vac will exile all the black cards from my grave. So if that matters, you know, obviously. But when it plays a Chrome Courier, they take the land and immediately play it. We untap. Draw Plains. Play Plains. Play Greed. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw. They play a tap land. That's pretty good. They kill our Greed. They hit us for 1. We untap, draw another swamp. Play it, pass the turn. Man, Greed would have been so good there. Opponent plays an island. Hits us for 1. We take 1. They play a Fairgrounds Patrol. We draw a Biding Grace. Play a Biding Grace. Pass the turn. Gain 1 life on our end step. When it goes to combat, hits us for 3. Go to 13. They play a Harmonic Prodigy. We draw Blacksmith Skill. Pass the turn. Gain 1 life. I need to draw another white mana. When it plays a land, goes to combat, hits us for 4. We untap and draw Priest. So play the Priest. Pass the turn. Gain a life. Still really need to draw Plains. Okay. So they can Piercing Raise that during their main phase. Not sure why they didn't unless they drew a 4-drop to play. We go to 7. Okay. Untap. Draw Thraben Watcher. Alright, pass the turn. I guess I could reanimate Thraben Watcher, but it may not be worth it. Gain a life. I'm actually going to give this Hexproof this turn. Kind of want to stop the bleeding a little bit. Oh, they can just forecast again, can't they? Oh, that's embarrassing. You know, to be fair, I don't think I've ever played a deck that has a forecast card in it. Not a single time. And I don't think I've played against anybody who's ever forecast it. Maybe in Limited, maybe a while ago, but like, never in Constructed. Oh, they're going to Foundry Helix. Only during your upkeep and only once each turn. Okay, so I'm not crazy. Can't sack it. Can't really do anything about it. Okay. When it goes to combat, they're going to hit us for 5 and take us to 3. Ditch Thraben Watcher. Mega Food. Gain life. Untap. Draw Vermin Gorger. Play the Gorger. Pass the turn. Gain a life. Opponent untaps. They play Prophetic Titan. They have plenty of card types in the grave. They shoot us for 4. Oh, it's a wizard. It happens twice. So even if I ditch a card, I'm going to 2, and I block here, I still take 2, and I die. Alright. It's pretty good. Didn't draw Plains for 10 turns. I don't think I play the other Landscaper Kolos. Maybe I play World Weary, but run it back. I'd like to play first. The hand is okay. I think we can do better. I think this counts as better. We're going to keep, put back Vermin Gorger, lead on Soul Snare, pass the turn, draw another Plains, play a Swamp. This is a little risky, but it's a super high payoff if we draw a discard outlet. The risk is my opponent has Prismatic Ending here. But it plays an island. They pass. We draw Greed. Play planes, go to combat, attack our opponent for 2. They go to 18, then we pass. Their turn, they play a swamp, they play Storm God's Oracle. We untap, draw Dermotaxi. There's a reanimation spell, but still need a discard outlet. Play Greed, pass the turn. If they prismatic ending my Greed again, I'll be a little annoyed. Because they'd have to have exactly planes prismatic ending. They go to combat, they pass. We untap, draw Sanctifier and Vec. Greed, Abiding Grace. Let's Greed again and try and find a land. Okay. We did not pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a mountain. They play an Arcbound Tracker and Zabaz, getting a counter on the tracker. And they pass. We untap. We draw Breathless Knight. Greed for a land. Clattering Augur for a land. Oh, we got a Wrath. Wrath here is pretty good. Opponent plays a tap land. I would like for them to commit more to the board. We untap. There's the land. Play land. Let's go ahead and board wipe. Opponent's going to shoot us for 3 and take us to 10. They have nothing to modular onto. Okay. We go to 10. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They suspend Gargadon. Basic land cycle, Landscaper Kolos. Getting an island. They could be setting up for an upheaval, so I'm not going to greed just in case, I think. Untap, we draw Thraben Watcher. So I hate to lose the value in my own grave, but play Sanctifier. Exile a bunch of cards. Play Breathless Knight. Pass the turn. Okay, Gargadon ticks down to 3. If they have Upheaval, they'll play it the turn before Gargadon comes down, because we do have a Soul Snare. They'll try and incentivize us to crack Soul Snare prior to that, I think. They might be playing Prophetic Titan here. Marble Gargoyle, okay. Untap. We draw Break Ties. So play Thraben Watcher, leave up Soul Snare / Reinforce. Go to combat. Attack here and here. Vigilance is great. Opponent no blocks. They take 6, we gain 3, and we pass. They untap, Gargadon taken down to 2. They play a Mistvault Bridge. They go to combat, and they are passing. I'm going to do this because I've got a feeling I need to gain as much life as I can. Untap. We draw. Plains. Play Plains. Go to combat. Attack for 7. Okay, opponent blocks with Marble Gargoyle. Adds to its toughness. Adds to its toughness. So we're going to gain 4. Play Abiding Grace. Pass the turn. And I really suspect they're going to play Upheaval or they're trying to draw it. Gain a life. Opponent untaps. Gargadon ticks down to 1. Okay, there's the Upheaval. Opponent plays a land. Plays an Arcbound Tracker. Now opponent has to discard hand size. They discard a bunch of lands. Play a land. Play Soul Snare. Pass the turn. We discard Glorious Enforcer. Greed. Swamp, Plains. Plains? We're discarding 5 cards currently. We need to discard 2 more. Thraben Watcher, Grace. Okay, Gargadon's coming off suspend. So if my opponent can cast another spell, they can grow Tracker to a 3/3, and then... Okay, they're hitting us for 9, which is half of our life total. Really hope they don't have Prismatic Ending. If they do, this is all for naught, but... Play a Swamp. Play Scrapwing. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Opponent plays a tap land. They go to combat. They attack. Okay, well I hope they don't have a Blacksmith skill. Exile the Gargadon. Okay, we take 2. No blocks. Untap. Draw Swamp. Play Plains. Play Sanctifier. Okay. Exile Greed from our own grave, pass the turn. So if our opponent attacks, we can double block and then put a counter on Sanctifier. Opponent draws. They play a tap land. They play Gargoyle. They go to combat. They do attack. So they're trying to modular up the Gargoyle. Make the Sanctifier bigger. Kill the tracker. It went to exile because it's red, so they don't modular. So that was a not great attack. We untap. Draw a swamp. Play a swamp. Late to dinner. Glorious Enforcer. Okay, now we'll have a 5/5 flying lifelink and a food. Opponent only has 2 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. I don't know what the odds are. They have a haste creature, but they could have an Arcbound Slasher, so we're gonna pass. Opponent plays a tap land. And an Ornithopter of Paradise. And a Fairgrounds Patrol. We untap. Draw Soul Snare. Go to combat. Attack for 5. Opponent no blocks. They take 5, go to 3. We gain 5 and go to 12. Play a swamp. Play Breathless Night. Pass the turn, leave the food available. Opponent plays a tap land. So they need removal for Glorious Enforcer. If they don't have a way to actually do anything about it, we're just going to keep attacking until... Okay, they can exile it. That does work. It's a bit unfortunate. Sack food. Okay. So we lose our 7-drop, which sucks immensely. Opponent kills Breathless Night with Foundry Helix. It gets exiled because of Sanctifier. We draw another one, play a swamp, play Breathless Night, play Soul Snare, pass the turn, no attacks. Opponent untaps. They have less than a minute left on their clock. They play a tap land, no attacks. We untap, we draw. Swamp. Play it, pass the turn. We're waiting on drawing our other Glorious Enforcer here. Opponent passes, we untap. Draw Landscaper Kolos, so let's go ahead and play that. Go ahead and put the tap land back in their deck. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play Harmonic Prodigy. This might be Prodigy Wizard to kill Kolos. That's what I meant, Prodigy Titan anyway. Okay. Opponent resolves the first Titan trigger. Resolves the second Titan trigger. Goes to combat and passes. We untap. We draw the Discerning Taste. Play Discerning Taste. Get a Glorious Enforcer to her hand. Then we pass the turn and opponent times out. And that game was by no means over. We could block that Prophetic Titan infinitely with Sanctifier Envec. We were about to play a 5/5 lifelink here that flies. Opponent does not have enough flying power and toughness to just block it down. So, alright, well, I'll see you guys in round 3. Alright, yesterday got away from me just a little bit. I'm going to keep this hand. 2 Breathless Nights are good. No, turn off auto yields! Turn off auto yields. I almost F6 through my first turn. Please don't F6 through my first turn. Okay, cool. It's not a good way to start off your morning. Pass the turn. Whoo, crisis averted. Alright, opponent starts Esper Sentinel. Play a swamp, play Clattering Augur. That's an excellent draw here. We do draw a reanimation spell, which is excellent. I mean, not that Dermotaxi isn't a reanimation spell, but opponent plays a Barbed Spike, gets a 2/1 flyer. They're going to hit us for 1 because we can't block. We untap, draw Vermin Gorger, go to combat, attack for 1. Okay, no blocks by the opponent. Play Plains, play Breathless Night. Pass the turn. I decided to play Breathless Night there over Vermin Gorger because it's a more efficient usage of the mana. If I draw a land, I guess it doesn't really matter that much, but that was basically my logic. Okay. Okay, we draw the Underworld Cookbook, which is excellent. If I attack with Breathless Night, they're just going to block with the Thopter. If I attack with Clattering Augur, they're just going to block it with Marble Gargoyle. So my options are either to play the Cookbook and the Gorger, or to play the Breathless Night. And I'm going to go with the Cookbook and the Gorger because... actually, I'm just going to play the Cookbook. I don't want my opponent to to draw this turn. Pass the turn. So next turn, or rather at the end of this turn, I can ditch Glorious Enforcer and try to cast a Late for Dinner, or a Dermotaxi, actually. So opponent attacks for 2, no blocks. It's not that concerning. Alright, opponent passes. Yeah, let's go ahead and ditch Glorious Enforcer, make a food. Untap. We draw Arcbound Mouser. Play Dermotaxi. I'm going to pay 1 here, just because we can. I could have played the Mouser as well, and let my opponent draw, but I don't want them to draw an answer that's instant speed for the Dermotaxi. Exile Glorious Enforcer. I think I would have much preferred to cast Late for Dinner there. But this will work just fine. Even if my opponent wipes my board, I have Mouser and Gorger I can play in the same turn, which will allow me to crew Dermotaxi. I have nothing else that I want to pitch to... nothing else I want to pitch to the Underworld Cookbook just yet. So my opponent goes to combat. They attack for 2. That's fine, no blocks. Okay, opponent moves the Barbed Spike over, then passes. We untap. We draw a Mere Scrapling. Okay. Play the Scrapling. Play the Gorger. We're playing the Scrapling over the Mouser because this allows us to swing with the Breathless Knight if we'd like. Crew up Dermotaxi. Go to combat. Attack for 7. See how our opponent blocks. Okay. Sack the Scrapling, make that a 3/3. Opponent pumps its toughness. Pumps its toughness. This is fine, even though they block, just because it gains us more life. And obviously, if we can get over our opponent's life total, then Glorious Enforcer starts to have double strike, and things get really, really nasty. Okay, opponent lets that go through. They take a bunch, they go to 14, we go up to 22, and we pass. It was really awkward to think that a mirror and a vampire were piloting the corpse of an angel to kill my opponent. Because that's really the flavor of what's happening there. Alright. Opponent attacks us for 3. No blocks. We take 3. Man, if I could get an Abiding Grace, that would be really disgusting. Alright, we untap. We draw Discerning Taste. I don't really want to cast Discerning Taste, because I don't want my opponent to draw, so my options are either to play another Breathless Knight or to play a Mouser. I think I'm just going to play the Mouser. We're going to tap Mouser and Clattering Augur. Clattering Augur is kind of useless right now. Go to combat. Glorious Enforcer gains double strike. So, attack for 10. Opponent chumps. Okay. We gain a bunch of life and pass the turn. So opponent's going to have to try and stall until they can draw a hard removal spell. They play another Barbed Spike, and they play a Disciple of the Sun to pick up Breathless Knight. I mean, it's a pretty successful stall right now. On their end step, sack of food. Up to 27. We untap. We draw a Goldmire Bridge. Play another Breathless Knight. Tap the Mouser and the Augur. Go to combat. Gains double strike. Attack for a lot. As a combat trick, if we wanted to, we could use the Vermin Gorger to sack Arcbound Mouser, draining our opponent and putting a counter on Dermotaxi, because it is an artifact. So opponent untaps. They draw. They're moving the Barbed Spike over. They go to combat. They attack for 4. I'm going to offer the trade here. Opponent gains life, we gain life. They play a land. If I reanimate Breathless Knight, that puts a counter on both of my Breathless Knights. They replay their Breathless Knight. They move the Barbed Spike over to Esper Sentinel. We untap. Draw planes. Play planes. Crew up Dermotaxi. Go to combat. Gains double strike. Attack for a lot. We are getting up into the silly amounts of life. Go to 40. Let's Discerning Taste, so we can set up for a Late to Dinner next turn, that I think will be better than a Breathless Knight. Oh, I have to pay 3? Okay, they can draw then. That makes sense. I forget that it's its power and not just 1. So Damn is actually pretty hilarious, because it kills... While it does kill both boards, depending on what we draw, it could actually be better. I'm going to take Damn because I don't want to reveal to my opponent that I have it. Probably not going to cast it this game unless things get really dire. Also going to start holding creatures in hand because of it. Opponent replays a Breathless Knight. Oh, they have another one anyway. Opponent goes to combat. They attack for 2. No blocks. We untap. We draw a Landscaper Kolos. So, crew up Dermotaxi. A cat and a skeleton walk into an angel. Go to combat. Attack for 10. Opponent no blocks. They take 10, we gain 10. So let's basic land cycle the Kolos. Get a swamp. Play the swamp. Pass the turn. So we're going to sack the Clattering Augur to Vermingorger. Take our opponent to 8. We can pick up the Vermingorger. This is the other reason that Dermotaxi is like really good, because my opponent has an exile spell for tapped creatures. And this just dodges it completely because it's a sorcery. Okay, opponent's going to exile. Okay, I'm actually getting to the point where I think I might have to Wrath. Opponent plays a Monoskellion. Dermotaxi dodging our Wrath is pretty good too. So opponent goes to combat. They are attacking for 7. They're leaving 1 creature back because removal. Yeah, this is fine. We're going to block here so that our opponent doesn't draw a card when we Wrath. On our opponent's end step, we will pick up the Augur, untap, draw Break Ties. Let's go ahead and overload. Okay, opponent pings us in response. We blow up the world. Play Clattering Augur. We draw a Legion Vanguard. So pass the turn. And unless my opponent has an artifact destruction spell, or an instant speed creature removal spell, or a blocker, they're dead this turn. And if they have a blocker only, they're dead next turn. So they play Cabal Initiate, they equip Cabal Initiate, they equip Cabal Initiate, and they're hoping we're attacking on the ground because they can give it lifelink. Play Legion Vanguard, crew up Dermotaxi, go to combat, gains double strike, hit them for lethal. Alright. Casual 58 life. Cool. So my opponent's deck is also a white-black deck, right? I actually feel like bringing in the Sanctifier versus my opponent is incorrect, so I'm just going to run it back. We do need to be aware they have Piercing Rays, meaning they have exile removal at sorcery speed for our big creatures. I don't think that means we play like Underworld Hermit or anything like that, though. Okay. We have a Abiding Grace Vermingorger, and double of each color, so I'm going to keep this. It's not an amazing hand. I think we got to start on Goldmire Bridge, though. Okay, Glorious Enforcer will be good eventually. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Swamp, plays a Monoskellion. We draw another Glorious Enforcer. Play a Plains, play a Soul Snare. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays a Marble Gargoyle. They go to combat. They do not attack. Interesting. We draw an Underworld Cookbook. So, play a Swamp. Let's play an Abiding Grace. Pass the turn. Gain a life. Opponent untaps. They play a Barbed Spike. Get another flyer. Hit us for 4. We untap. We draw Clattering Augur. Play the Augur because we would like to draw land. There's a land. Play the Vermingorger. Gain a life. So we can start the Drain Train going. Looking for a reanimation spell now. I don't want to play it until I have 5 mana if I can avoid it, because I want to protect Glorious Enforcer when it hits the battlefield. Opponent attacks for a lot, we'll take it. We go to 11. Untap. We draw late to dinner. That's good. Play the Underworld Cookbook. Go to combat. Hit our opponent for 1. Okay, they go to 19. We pass. Gain a life. Opponent untaps. They draw. They play a land. So we're still probably not going to be doing any blocking this turn. I think we're going to crack Soul Snare to kill the Gargoyle, because it's their biggest flyer. We're going to sack the Clattering Augur for sure. And we're going to ditch Glorious Enforcer at the end step. We're really hoping to draw land, because we have no tap lands left in the deck, and that would allow us to reanimate Glorious Enforcer and have Blacksmith skill to protect it. So opponent goes to combat, they attack for 6. Okay. Soul Snare the Gargoyle. Opponent's going to hit us for 4 and take us to 8. Opponent plays a Guardian Kieran. So on their end step, sack the Augur, drain our opponent, ditch Glorious Enforcer, make a food, sack the food, gain life. Alright, come on, land. We untap, we draw Priest of Fell Rites. Well, play the Priest. I don't want to pick up the Clattering Augur. I would rather commit more to the board. This lets me ditch the other Glorious Enforcer if my opponent does nothing, and gain life off of the food. Next turn we can reanimate Glorious Enforcer, leaving up all of our mana. Potentially we could reanimate both, if we draw a land, because then I feel comfortable with Blacksmith skill, because it's likely my opponent only has one powerful single target removal spell. Okay, opponent plays Plains. They go to combat. They attack us for 6. No blocks. We're going 8. Okay. Opponent passes. Discard Glorious Enforcer. Make a food. Gain life. We untap. We draw a swamp. Perfect. Play a swamp. Priest of Fell Rites. Get back a Glorious Enforcer. Has to be done at sorcery speed. And we reanimate Glorious Enforcer. And now we have a Blacksmith skill to protect our gigantic angels. Sick. They're not going to have double strike the first time they attack, but the next time they probably will. Okay, gain a life. So if my opponent forecasts to tap, we let them do that. But when they actually go to cast Piercing Rays, we would Blacksmith skill. Okay, they don't appear to have it. Opponent goes to combat. They are attacking. Okay, so there is a non-zero possibility, although it is pretty close to 0, that they do have a Wrath. So I think what we're going to do is this. If they have a combat trick, we can just counter it with Blacksmith skill effectively. Lens Flare. Okay, give it hexproof and indestructible. And if they have a second Lens Flare, they have to target the same Glorious Enforcer, and they have to do it now. They do. Alright, that still was overall very successful for us. I should have sacked in response. That was actually a mistake. I missed effectively 2 damage. But now, we can gain enough life to give Glorious Enforcer double strike and get way out of the way. Alternatively, I can unearth Priest of Fell Rites and get back my other Glorious Enforcer. We draw a swamp, crack food, discard a swamp, crack food, go to 20, go to combat, swing 10 with lifelink. Now if they have Piercing Rays, they can cast it, but I also cannot protect Glorious Enforcer from it. This just makes sure that we have enough life that we can pay for Priest of Fell Rites, take a swing, and still be able to gain double strike when we attack. They did have a Piercing Rays. They play a Cabal Initiate. We're down to 1 card in hand. They're going to hit us for 2. We untap. We draw a Vermin Gorger. So, unearth Priest of Fell Rites. Get back Glorious Enforcer. Pass the turn. Alright, opponent's turn. I love coffee. Alright, opponent goes to combat. Glorious Enforcer gains double strike. They don't attack. We untap. We draw. Swamp. Go to combat. Gain double strike. Get in for 5. Opponent chumps. We gain life. Okay. I think for mana efficiency, we're going to pick up Clattering Augur and replay it. I mean, if they have Exile removal, they're going to target Glorious Enforcer with it. Because if they don't have Exile removal, we can just pick up Glorious Enforcer again with the Cookbook. We get a Breathless Knight. Yeah, I don't really see our opponent coming back from this. Not unless there's a mass exile spell that I'm forgetting exists in this format. I mean, you know, our opponent could be like, Merciless Eviction, name creatures, and we would be like, wow, that sucks, but 99% sure that wasn't printed into this format. Man, I love Merciless Eviction, it's so brutal. Alright, gain a life. Okay, opponent's turn. They had another Piercing Rays, okay. They're suiting up the Cabal Initiate. They're going to combat and attacking. No blocks. They don't discard, so they don't gain life. We draw a swamp. Go to combat. Attack for 1. Opponent takes 1, goes to 6. Play a swamp. Play a knight. Play a Gorger. So now we can just start draining our opponent whether or not they attack. We have a flyer that can get in to deal damage. We're gaining so much life. Look at that. We're 10 over our starting life total, and our opponent is top decking dead. So, like, even if Glorious Enforcer dies, if it connects once, really, you're probably going to be fine. No blocks. Okay, opponent's going to play their last card. It is a Disciple of the Sun, so they do have a lifelinker. And they play a Monoskellion, sure. We untap, draw a Swamp. So, kind of need to draw. They can gain 4 per turn, and we can drain them for 4 per turn right now. Go to combat, attack for 2. I don't think we have any direct damage in this deck. Take them to 4, go ahead and drain them. But I could get like a Bone Shards here, which is why I'm not discarding this Swamp, or not playing this Swamp yet. We get a Greed. I mean, Greed can find us what we need, that's for sure. We have enough life to Greed. Go ahead and gain life. So opponent untaps, they draw. They go to combat. They attack us for 8. They can discard the Cabal Initiate to give it lifelink, and they probably should if they're just holding a land. Okay, they do, because they are holding a land. They go back up to 8. I think they should move the Barbed Spike over to the Disciple, but that's just me. See what we draw. Arcbound Mouser. Play Greed. Get greedy. Another Breathless Knight, that's good. Go to combat. I've got a plan, and I think that plan is playing Mouser this turn so that we can block the Disciple of the Sun and sack it to Vermingorger. We don't get the modular trigger, but we will have a Biting Great. Actually, I should play it this turn because, well, I want to sack it on my opponent's turn because I don't want them to gain life off of the Disciple, which means I'm greeting again this turn, which is fine. Actually, could I have killed them if I had done this more intelligently? If I had played the Arcbound Mouser and sacked it, they'd be at 6. Then they would take... No, I couldn't have. Never mind. Because it's at the end step of Biting Grace brings the stuff back. Okay. Second main. Greed. Discerning Taste. Alright. Play the Mouser. I don't think I've played a land yet this turn, have I? Alright, I don't think I have, so I'm going to greed again. Alright, Break Ties is useful. That does kill their Monoskellion. I guess they can ping the Arcbound Mouser, actually. That's something that in my master plan I did not account for. But I can still sack it. Even if they do, and that shrinks their board. They might be on tilt because this is a really tough situation to come back from, so they may not even see that. Or they may decide that having Monoskellion as a 1/1 is unacceptable because they need it to attack past the Vermingorger. When it goes to combat, they attack. Block here. Okay. I'm not sure how that vampire ate a robot cat, but he did. We did not put the counter on Monoskellion because we're good at this game. Opponent now, if they want to gain life to survive, has to ditch their only card in hand. Okay. They had to discard a Disciple of the Sun. That must feel really terrible. Okay. They go up to 7. We untap. We draw Plains. Greed. Greed. Okay. Play Breathless Knight. Go to combat. Attack for 4. Take them to 3. I am in a Discerning Taste. I'm a little low on cards in deck, but I want to get something. Bone Shards helps a lot, actually. Okay. Pass the turn. Get back the Mouser. Counters on the guys. Pass the turn. So, same thing. We're going to block the Disciple of the Sun. Okay, cool. But if you're in this situation, you would block the Disciple of the Sun because it is the only thing that naturally has lifelink, and our opponent has to gain life. So we force them to discard whatever they drew to Cabal Initiate, even though it is bigger and will gain them more life. The fact that they are denied their draws for the rest of the game basically put them in a death spiral. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. And remember, you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesday afternoons. Sometimes early, sometimes late, but just whenever I can. I'm trying to work another day into the schedule. I'm pretty sure this video will have it. So anybody watching... if you're still here, thank you first off, you're wonderful, and I really appreciate the fact that you would watch through the entire video, you special human being, you. But I have been adding in some audio normalization because I got some complaints, and I realized that this is a thing that I can do because my entire editing process is completely automatic. I do not edit my own videos, I do not have an editor for my own videos, it's all done through computer wizardry magic because that's my day job. So if the audio in this video was better, please let me know. I really would appreciate it. And, yeah, I'll see you guys next time. You're all wonderful human beings. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of August. You guys are wonderful, and I really appreciate your support. It's been helping me make a lot of good content. If you want your name to show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon in the description down below if you want to support this channel. Thank you so much.